I just want to welcome everybody here today on a dose of positivity, and to let you know that you're in the right place if you love food, if you love nature, you love business, and you love life. And sometimes people show up here and they're feeling really down, and our goal here is to turn that around. So sometimes it's frustrating and it's confusing out there, especially right now in the world. And each day we could all do for a dose of positivity. And I've devoted my entire life, you had asked me what I do, but really what I do is do my best to make people happy and to be their best selves. And it doesn't take much, really. What it comes down to, one word, and it's love. And so we bring a lot of love here to these calls, and beautiful, loving guests. Today we have Ann Moir-Bussy. I always say your name wrong. Can you say it, Ann, real quick for me?
And Moir-Bussy.
Isn't that Ann Moir-Bussy? It's a beautiful ring. But I want to thank you all so much for joining us. And before I bring on Ann, who is going to be talking to us today about expanding our horizons at any age, and how it is an integral part of boosting our immune systems and living a long, healthy life. So expanding our horizons. So I'm going to ask all of you right now to just take a minute with me to get grounded. Put your feet on the ground. If you're outside, put your feet on the soil, or just take your shoes off and feel that snow wherever you are, just to ground yourself and take a few shallow breaths in and out your nose, and close your eyes. I just invite you to get really present and to think of the first thing that comes to your mind, of the most positive thing that's happened to you today. Yes, and now I'm asking you one thing more to do while you're here in this place is think about just one word that would sum up that experience for you. Was it joy, love, happiness, delicious? Yeah. It's such a beautiful place to be in a positive state of mind. And we all know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And when we can focus on positive things, our minds become a garden. And when we take care of that garden, it flourishes. And knowing that we can focus on the positivity, we are more in control of our lives. Understanding that we can take control of our lives, we can achieve our goals. And this comes with wonder and contemplation and opening those closed doors to new opportunities. Because when we do different things happen. And there are many reasons to change our ways. And it comes with taking the time to evaluate our level of happiness, our relationships, our health, our current situations. Some of us are maybe feeling overloaded in terms of new opportunities. And maybe there's younger people who are coming up behind you, who have faster computers, bigger social media. It's frustrating. Maybe your health is suffering and you don't know what to do. Or worse, you know what to do, but you're downhearted and you don't take the time to take care of yourself. Especially in these challenging times, it's really important to have people like our special guest today, Dr.Ann, who can help us move through these closed doors. We all have a story, and each of us has felt this pit in our stomach from time to time. And releasing those negative stories and writing a new script that's editable, that we can change at any time, can turn our lives around. Sometimes it takes getting professional help, and sometimes it's just taking some time alone, some downtime, and just speaking our truth. So the key here is the faster we take care of a wound, the sooner it heals. The faster we take care of a wound, the sooner it heals. As we grow older, and each of us are, no matter what age we are, we're all getting older. There's no stopping that. We all get older. We have a choice to age with grace or to age with disgrace. Being more conscious and aware in our daily lives can make all the difference in the world. COVID's not going away, but our lives must continue. And unless the laws force us into lockdown, these closed doors are open for us to walk out. Simply opening these doors and releasing negativity, we have the room for positivity. When we approach each day with wisdom and wonder, you become unstoppable, and you become ageless. I mean, I'm 64. This woman I'm about to introduce you to is going to be 80 years old in a month. And she wonders, and she is unstoppable. Aging doesn't have to mean growing old. And I just want to say right now that this special guest today, Dr.Ann Moir-Bussy, is, say your name for me, Ann, sing it out.
And Moir-Bussy.
Ann Moir-Bussy is this is just such a beautiful introduction, so just take it in, and you guys make sure you ask questions. If you want to put anything in the chat, questions or comments that you have, we'll love to hear it. Dr. Ann is a registered counselor and a psychotherapist with the Australian Counselling Association, that's the ACA. She's also the vice president and is also an educator, a workshop facilitator, transformational life coach, consultant, and a best-selling author. Yay. For over 25 years, Ann was a missionary and a teacher, and she taught in schools throughout Australia, including many Indigenous schools in the Northern Territory. After returning as a counselor, she taught in the university in Australia and in Hong Kong, training students as counselors and supervising PhD students, and set up her own private practice in counseling and transformation life coaching, and has developed effective and powerful ways to facilitate change and healing, enabling clients to better able to attain their goals and dreams and become the best possible versions of themselves at any age. She believes in a holistic approach that embraces all aspects of life and integrating the mind, the body, and the spirit. And is strongly influenced by the Jungian ideas that enables us to explore the inner life and being more conscious and awareness into daily living in these changing times. In addition to this, Ann is a Reiki master and is practicing Qigong and meditation daily. Well, right there gives you anti-aging and ways to just explore. So Ann, I am so excited to introduce you to the audience. And whether you're listening on podcast, on the replay, or on our YouTube channel, we're so happy you're here. So
thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. And I've been so impressed with all you do and that holistic approach to health that you have. And it's an honor to be here, so thank you.
Yeah, I am just thrilled to have you here, Ann. So one of the things that I think people would really like to hear from someone who's pretty much starting a whole new career at 8 decades into their life, what keeps you going at nearly 80 years old? What is your magic pill? What keeps you going, baby?
I don't know about magic pills. But it is, as you said, it's a lot to do with the approach to life, and a lot to do with how one thinks about life. And in that whole approach to life of being positive, in one sense, it's also very much to do, I think, with the beautiful people that I've met in my life. There are some lovely people that have inspired me so much, and that enables me to keep going. But one of the things that's most important, I think, is, as you said just now, the meditation and the Qigong, being aware of what's around, what's in the environment, what's within me, and how do I then deal with that? How do I approach it? How do I look at it? So, and also there's so many things, I think, so many people need so much support and so much help. And focusing on that and how can one help someone else is really important. How can I bring love to people today? How can I get someone else to smile today? So there's a lovely saying Carl Gibran used to say, wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. And that's what I try to do. Not always that easy when you wake up tired, but to remember that you've got a winged heart and you have got love and you can share it.
That is so beautiful, Ann. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, I just feel like that's exactly the message for all of us to take with us each and every day, with that love in our heart, because we can choose to soar or have someone clip our wings, right? And so that is something that's going to stick with me forever. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, so, when I worked in Hong Kong, the Chinese head of school was a beautiful woman. She was Buddhist. And I remember her saying to me one day, she said, before I leave the apartment or the house, before I close the door, I ask myself, who can I bring love to today? Mm-hmm. And to me, that was very beautiful. Who can I bring love to today? Who can I help to smile today? Whether it's the bus driver or the person serving you in the shop or the person you pass, and just the smile that you can give to them that helps.
That is so great. I just want to also welcome Melissa on the call today. Thank you so much for being here, honey. You're going to really enjoy Dr. Melissa. And, you know, as we all get older, like some people on here, broken hips or got hip replacements and all of this stuff. And, you know, we can, like earlier I had mentioned magic pill or something, like, because that's what people think it's going to take to find love. But that is not the answer to what we're talking about here. Is there is no magic pill. What it is what's deep inside of us. So, and to share with us too, hi Kenny, welcome on to the call. We're so happy to see you. This is Kenny Down, everybody. He is our guest next week. And
hi Kenny, welcome.
He's amazing. He's going to be speaking on spiritual awakening, and it's going to be awesome. And I just want to remind everybody on the call today that I'm just so picky about who I bring on these calls, and everybody who is invited to speak here really values love, nature, health, and we're here to build our immune systems, because we're not hearing that from the government. We're not hearing that from the corporations out there who are controlling the wings. They prefer our wings to be clipped. So I am, you know, part of what we do here is we're all about building our immune systems, which is love is the number one thing. So Ann, I'd love for you to elaborate that on that some more, and how that has carried you through almost 80 years of your life, in your career and in personal life.
Yeah, a long story, 80 years. And it wasn't always like that, I think. Although I had very resilient parents. I was born during the Second World War, And my father was a prisoner of war in Changi in Singapore. And he didn't see me until I was 4 years old, which is quite amazing. But we moved to Australia not long after that because he'd met Australian soldiers. And that was a very big change from England to Australia. And then meeting different people, and my parents were very strong in a Christian approach, so the desire to become a missionary. And I did all during secondary school, and then trained to be a missionary and became a teacher and worked among Indigenous people. And that was the foundation, I think, of a deep spirituality, what I call the spirituality of the heart, that sense of love. That's where it started. But then when I moved into midlife, things began to change. You go through, as everyone here knows, if you're in midlife, what happens? You begin to sort of question things, look at things. Because I think a lot of us, when we're growing up, we conform. We learn to conform to what's expected of us, and we learn to the shoulds and the oughts and the musts, and we don't like to step out of line. I certainly didn't. And so it was in midlife that I began to realize there was something waiting to come out. What was it? And so that's when I began to retrain and become a counsellor and begin to work with the inner world in a different way. I also learned Qigong, and Qigong is the Chinese approach to holding your energy in a certain way, moving your energy in a beautiful way. And that's one of the things that helps to strengthen the immune system, recognizing what sort of energy is around us and in us. And as you were saying, Donna, it's just so important to live healthily, to live more healthily. And I think when we're really stuck in that conformity, trying to be normal, and normal is just conforming and following the path that everyone else is following. When we break away from that and begin to examine, what is it that we've got? What am I here on earth for? Is it to just be normal and fit in with everybody else? Or is it to discover and open up the whole new world that's within us? And I think that's rather frightening for a lot of people, is to how do you break away from what everyone else expects you to do? And I think a lot of that has to do with the story we tell ourselves, how we think about life. And for me, the story was, I have to keep going. I have to stay doing what I'm doing because I made a commitment to do this. And when you realize that you can change that commitment when you're being called to something stronger, and it's just so important to move forward and discover the beauty that's within. And you can't always do it on your own. It was the support of guides and helpers that enabled me to discover there was more to life than following just the pattern. Does that answer your question a little bit? It's all over the place, sorry.
I think that's so important to everybody who's listening to this call right now, to really ask yourself, who are you? What do you love to do? And what's your purposeful why? Because they don't teach us that in grade school or middle school or high school. They don't teach us that, who's they, right? The wing cutters, Ann. And so when was it that you had your awakening? When was it that you said midlife, but what was it that really, that pinnacle point? Was it a breaking point? Were you down, or were you just like struck by God? What was it that well, you were in a missionary family? I mean, gee, I didn't say Jesus, I said gee.
Well, it was I was always someone that put 100% into what I did, and I burnt myself out. So I kept working, even though I was not very well, and I burnt myself out and had to get quite sick and quite depressed, because the place I was living, or the people I were living with, they were good-hearted people, but there was very little love around. It was more, you must do the right thing and you mustn't speak out. You don't use your own voice. So it was that, and then getting quite sick. I got glandular fever, chronic fatigue, and then realizing this is not the way I want to live the rest of my life. And so I took a big step, and it took me a long time to do it, to leave being a missionary and to start all over again. And so I started. I had no money, I had nowhere to go, and so it was like building from the ground up. But I did find a beautiful guide who supported me and helped me, and that's when I studied Jungian psychology, because I looked at what was going on in the unconscious and working with dreams and discovering there's a whole new world waiting to be explored within. And then restudying, retraining, and starting again. And it's, I think a lot of, we talk about aging, and it's not just one thing after another. There's so many experiences that we have. And how do we then take each of those experiences? I talk to a lot of people now. All these experiences are a bit like what the alchemist does. And if you've heard of alchemy, is where the ancient ones used to take raw material and turn it into gold, or they hope to turn it into gold. And so what we do as we're growing is taking all our experiences and letting them, looking at them, putting them into a blender, if you like, and transforming them into gold for the rest of our life. So the experiences aren't bad or negative. They might have been very painful, but they're part of who we are. And I've got some lovely young people I work with in their 20s. And when they realize that they've got a wisdom inside them and a beauty inside them, and they're finding their own voice, and they're becoming, then they can face everything that's happening to them in a much more positive way.
At any age. And someone's asking, Anne, how old were you when you made these changes? Great question, Melissa.
I was almost 50. I was in my 40s and I was almost 50.
Mm-hmm. And
I married I found a beautiful person to walk with, and I married him when I was 51.
That's so awesome. You guys have
We're still together. We're 27 years married this year.
Oh, that's so awesome. If anybody's not on mute, if you could put yourself on mute, that would be great. Wow, that's so, in my book, Living Like the Future Matters, the evolution of a soul-to-soul entrepreneur, I write it in 6 evolutions. And like right now, I'm going into the 7th evolution, and there's nothing constant in nature except change, right? And I love that you're talking about transforming the alchemy into gold. And it's so interesting how when we get older, they call it the golden age, right? So it kind of all is coming back to that alchemy, like that's the golden years, right? But can you share with us right now, as being a woman and going through all of this missionary lifestyle into this transformation, and then all of a sudden breaking away from something that you were expected to be? I know that it must have played, you said you got sick, you got depressed. So finding that support, yay, but how were you able to really grasp hold of your life at that moment? Because I think a lot of people are at a breaking point right now, whether they're on the call now, or whether they know somebody who is. Okay.
I think what's really important, Donna, is that often we try to do it alone, and we're afraid to ask for help. We're afraid to reach out because we're worried about what people might think. And it wasn't an instantaneous change. It actually took me 8 years to make that change. And there was a lot to grow, a lot of things I had to learn and undo, in a sense. But it's reaching out and finding someone who values what you're doing and supports you in it. And this is why I've turned around to do this sort of work myself, because I think it's just so important that people know they're not alone. And you're not alone in going through what you're going through, because there are many, many other people going through the same sort of thing. And I think one of the things for women in particular, and this is men go through it as well in a different sort of way. But for women, we've often grown up in a system that's dominated by what I call masculine principles, which is achievement and career and keeping going and being seen to be in charge of everything. And I think what we forget is that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay, excuse me, it's okay to not be in charge all the time. It's okay to let go and get in touch with that, what I call the wise woman within you, because all of you have a wise woman within you, and the men have a wise feminine within them, as well as a sage or a wise man. If we can tap into that wise woman and listen to her, it's like listening to the soul, listening to your own soul, listening to that feminine voice within you and allowing it to express itself. That's what enables you then to come through the most difficult times. Because positivity, as we talked before, Donna, we've talked about this, that being positive is so important, but it's to do with your mindset or how you think about things. And I think part of the difficulty we have, and I remember someone saying this to me, what's that story you told yourself when this happened? Mm-hmm. And usually the story I told myself was someone else's story, that you shouldn't have done that, or it shouldn't be like this, or nothing will get better now. I was telling myself a negative story. And then when we learn to tell ourselves a different story, rewrite what we've learned so that it becomes our own voice, then we can look at things in a different way.
That's so great, right? We were so good at listening to everybody else, do this, don't do that, can't you read the signs, right? And when it comes down, it's like, especially being a woman, and that's why I asked that question specifically, we're the nurturers, we're always taking care of somebody else, and we'll get fat, sick, and nearly dead before, we start saying, hey, I got to put some of that attention on myself. And you're being a career woman at this time in your life. One of the things that I have noticed too for myself as I get older is I used to be able to go, charge. And I always had a lot of help at my restaurant or whatever business I was doing. But it's different now that I am in the next evolution of my life. And just like you said, you found this partner, your soulmate, and same thing with me. My husband is that rock for me, having that person to be there to lean on, and so that we have each other. But not everybody has that, Ann. You and I are so fortunate. So when you're working with, say, a client or somebody who's listening to this, and they might not have that same support as you and I do, what do you say to them?
I think what it is, even if you have a physical partner, it's more than that. One of the things, particularly with women that I talk to, it's about how you become what one of the Jungian analysts called it. You have to be forever pregnant, forever giving birth, and forever a virgin. So it's recognizing that you may not be pregnant with children anymore, but you're pregnant with new ideas, with creativity, with all the things that you can tap into. You're giving birth to those, and you're a virgin, and virgin means she who is one in herself. So it's standing on your own ground, putting your feet on the ground and recognizing that you are a whole person. And it's the blend of the masculine and the feminine, not just the feminine, but you have to blend the masculine, that strength, to know what you want. Many of you might have heard of that lovely author, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She's written Women Who Run with the Wolves, but she's recently given a whole lot of talks called The Dangerous Old Woman, and how to become an elder, the dangerous old woman. And dangerous, in her term, in the traditional meaning of dangerous, was that you stand up for what you value. that you won't let anyone take away what is most precious to you, which is your integrity, your honesty, your love, your trust in people. That's what you have to stand up for, and that's dangerous, because you don't let anyone else put their values or their thoughts into you that take that away.
That is so great. I love what Jonathan just said, Jojo. He said pregnant with ideas. And that is something I would love for you to address, what Jonathan just said, pregnant with ideas. Like, sometimes I feel like I have so many ideas, so many books I want to write, so many people to help, so many places to go, things to do. And I feel like I have quadruplets. I'm carrying it around, So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, right. So it is, and actually that's something I kind of want to red flag caution everybody is, and my husband reminds me of this a lot too. It's kind of the way to get through things is to stay focused on one thing and get her done and then get the next thing done. But like with women, like we're multitaskers, we have 5 babies or whatever it is. That's why we were created and in this womb that we still carry around and focus in, because I think if anything ages me or anything, actually, this is really interesting. I always say I have to live till I'm at least 120 to accomplish half the things that are on my list to do.
Yeah.
So staying healthy, right, clear-minded, and realizing I live each day like, Ann, I don't know about you, but I live it like it's the last day of my life, and I'm also in the same mindset of, wow, if this is the last day of my life, it doesn't mean I have to cram it all in. It means I have to take care of this each precious moment and being present. And I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that 80-20 thing that we were talking about earlier, and also just the art of being present and how that is an anti-aging strategy, and it will help people like even myself achieve these lofty goals, these pregnant goals that I have.
Yeah. I think it's what I noticed that Jonathan. Jonathan was saying he gets insomnia sometimes with all the ideas, and I think the important thing there is we call it mindfulness. We have a mind full, and it's full of all sorts of things and full of ideas, but learning to be mindful, being present in this moment is important. Like right now, there's nothing else I can do but be here with all of you, and so if I'm starting to think about I've got to do this or I've got to do that, that's not being mindful. And it's practicing those little moments of mindfulness. And even when we go to bed, focusing on our breath, breathing in and breathing out, being grateful for this moment. I think that's one way to help us when we get too busy. And being busy means that we're not living who we really are, in a sense. We're hiding from something. It took me a long time to learn that the more I put myself into work, the more I was running away from being present to who I really was.
Oh, that is so powerful.
Yeah. And I think we get addicted to work sometimes.
Oh,
because, yeah. And a lot of younger people, because they've suffered trauma, or, even in early childhood, many people have suffered trauma or they've been through trauma. And it's about how do you not let go of the trauma, but turn that trauma into love for yourself and compassion. And I think the hardest thing is people learning how to love themselves and be compassionate to who they are and all they are. And bring that compassion to yourself first, then you can bring it to other people.
Oh, what a great reminder. You know what? Here, let me just share something with y'all real quick, because this is so important, really in alignment with what you're talking about and the whole mothering thing. So I closed the door and I'm just sharing this with you. Here's Sadie, and that's a little background noise. You keep chirping, and as long as I'm here, you bring you this present, this gift right here, this beautiful day on the Big Island. But I just had to let her in. Oh, hi, Chester. I had to let her in because she was distracting me. And that's kind of what we were talking about is letting these distractions get in our way, and how, it's hard when you're parenting, or it's hard when you have an exam at school or whatever it is that you're studying for or doing. And so give us some tools, give us some strategies, Ann, on how, when a situation like that comes up. She was just going to keep barking and nagging me till I let her in. So, but I'm focused here. So we're not perfect, right? Things are going to happen. So this is perfect time for you to share with us.
Sounds like you have a dog, but we have magpies. Magpies are, I don't know if you have magpies in Hawaii, but they're a black and white bird in Australia. And magpies are very clever, and they come down to be fed every morning. And only this morning I was trying to finish something else, and I heard this tap, tap, tap on the window. And I turned around, and there's this magpie standing on the doorstep, tapping on the window and calling out, "Where's my food?" And so stop what we were doing, go and feed them. And they're very grateful. They smile at you and they sing for you. So that's sort of the same sort of thing. Things will interrupt us. Maybe I could tell a little story. It's one of it's told by different people, but it's about a black African woman, a Nubian woman, who was very, very beautiful. And she had a beautiful necklace and beautiful clothes. But the other women in the village were really jealous of her. And they wouldn't talk to her, they wouldn't let her join in. And she felt very, very lonely. And one day she came down to the river where everyone was washing their clothes. And she noticed the women were all laughing and talking. And they said to her, "Come and join us. We're not very nice to you sometimes. Come and join us." So she said to them, "Where are your necklaces?" And they said, "Oh, the river gods told us to throw them in. So we gave them to the river god." And she thought, well, I must do the same. So she threw her necklace deep into the river. And then they all burst out laughing and pulled their necklaces out from underneath because they'd lied to her. And then they ran off and left her. And she was very, very distraught, crying and upset, and knew she couldn't get her necklace back, when she heard a voice from the river calling her to come in. So she dived into the river and went deep, deep down. And there she met a very old, ugly woman who had sores all over her. And the woman said, "Kiss my sores and I'll help you find your necklace." And she felt sorry for the old woman, and she kissed her sores. And the woman became the beautiful goddess under the river, and gave her not only her necklace, but an even more beautiful necklace and more beautiful clothes. And she then went back, and of course the other girls, when they discovered the clothes and the necklace, "Where was it? How did you get that?" And she told them that she'd met this woman, the river woman who'd helped her. And they all dived in, and they met this ugly old woman with sores. And she said to them, "Kiss my sores." And they turned their back and said, "No way." And the demon of the river came and took them all. And I think that simple story is that compassion. In some ways, a lot of things that happen to us, they're like oozing sores. Can we have that compassion for ourselves? Can we love and accept those parts of ourselves that are really difficult, that we don't like about ourselves? Can we love those parts of ourselves? And can we do that for others too? Because if we can do it for ourselves, then we can do it for others.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Wow. You're a beautiful storyteller, and it makes everything so relevant to what we're talking about. And right now there's lots of people with open, oozing wounds, and it's a choice we get to make. Do we kiss them and feel the rewards and feel grateful that we have so much love in our hearts and strong wings, so that we can continue on teaching, especially the young children right now who are born wearing a mask and not being, what is going on with their little minds? Are they being taught to be compassionate and loving when they're feeling so much trauma and sadness? So how would you tell that story actually, how would you wouldn't tell it any better than you just did, but wouldn't it be beautiful if all children learned that story from a very early age? And those were the stories, those were those scripts, like you were talking earlier, Anne, about what people tell you and how you should and should not be.
Fairy tales are so beautiful because there's so many stories that they have a lesson in them. And the stories children hear will either help them to grow or they will traumatize them. And there's an African writer, Ben Okri, and he says stories can poison a family and a nation, or stories can heal a family and a nation. And which stories do we tell ourselves? Which stories do we tell other people? And what are the stories our children, the young people, the children of today are hearing? And if the parents are not coping with what's happening and they're very negative, the children are going to learn the same thing, which is very sad. And I think it's so important for us to tell stories that are healing stories.
Yeah. Tell stories that stop the craziness. And it's so beautiful because we do have a couple of authors. You're a best-selling author, myself. And Kenny too, and I love what he said, some really nice things in the chat, and you might want to address. But the power of storytelling. Some of us are better storytellers and some might be better writers, but some of us are musicians on this call. I know one personally, Melissa's an amazing musician, telling a story through dance. That's where we find our uniqueness. That's where we find that love, self-love for ourselves. And if whatever way we translate it, I do it through food a lot of times, just making a beautiful meal and then teaching other people how to do the same. And these are the things these stories that if we choose to share them, like as we get older, and too, like I'm feeling like, and I know like other people who are listening, as you get older, like what's your legacy going to be? What's your story going to be? What are people going to be saying about you, 10 years after you're gone to the spirit world, or 20 or 30, or will you even be remembered? Are you dust in the wind? And without putting that pressure or that stress, like Kenny was saying, it's a distraction to feeling like we got to go from what makes us, getting in touch with ourselves. But there is too, and actually you can help us all with this, with all your skills in psychotherapy, it's like, how do you calm that side of yourself down, that work thing that's like Kenny's talking about here about distracting? It's a distraction. Our work becomes a distraction, right? And I know for me, part of this is I got a granddaughter and all these children, and I know that I'm speaking from that love place and just so much pouring out of me, right? To want to give a dose of positivity to everybody I meet. And how do we do that and not be a distraction?
Yes, it's a daily thing, isn't it? It's not something you do and you suddenly know how to do it. It's a daily intention. I think it's you wake up in the morning and how am I going to be today? If you've had a bad night, so some nights we've just had some really, really hot weather, humid weather. We don't normally have humid weather, and difficult to sleep at night, and then getting up in the day and trying to breathe with the humidity. And how do you do it? As you say, it's that awareness. I think just being aware of because it's the thoughts quite often that take over, how am I aware of what I'm thinking in that moment? You know, don't always know straight away. But for example, if I feel a little bit grumpy because things are not getting done, or I've got too much to do, taken on too much, and then that awareness, and then thinking, oh, no, I don't need to invite this in and give it a cup of tea. I'm aware of it, take some deep breaths, let it go, and then move on to the next little thing. And it's that awareness, that practice that I found most helpful was, as I said, the mindfulness practice, or being in the present, or going with the flow, in the sense, learning to be in the flow rather than constantly moving. Any young people here, there's a lovely program, I don't know if you have it there, it's called Zen Den Kids. And Zen masters, as you know, they practice being in the present moment. And this is a lovely program where you look and they talk about thoughts like bubbles. Thoughts are like bubbles that, you know, you can either keep the bubbles there or you let them just prick them and they go. Mm-hmm. And they talk about, you know, when you get these thoughts, do you bring them in and then let them walk through and go out the other door? Or do you bring them in and sit them down and entertain them and give them a cup of tea? And particularly if they're negative thoughts, or they're thoughts that are not helping you to grow, if you entertain them, they're going to pull you down and then pull everyone else down around you. And so that mindfulness practice is, it's a process and it's a practice. Just being present as far as we can. And then when things go wrong and you haven't done it, don't beat up on yourself. Mm-hmm. Just think, oh, there I go again. All right, now let's start again, bit by bit.
Yeah.
And as I get older, it gets harder sometimes, but you just, you know, I bend down to put my shoes on and do them up, and then wear something to lean on to get up again, because while your body will grow older. And there was a Jewish rabbi who said once, grow old, but it's forbidden to be old. I love that. Grow old, but it's forbidden to be old. So it's yes, we're aging, our body will age, but you look after it, you keep being positive. Your mind doesn't have to get old and think, this is it, I've had it.
Age doesn't have to mean growing old.
No. Age is just a number.
Yeah.
And it's being, that lovely positivity that you bring, Donna, this is what it's about. How do we bring that to others is what it's about, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm just so grateful for you and all the wisdom, the stories you share today, Ann. You are a diamond in the rough who is just shining bright, and I am just honored to have you on the show, and all of you who came today. If anybody has any last thoughts or things that they would like to, comments or things to ask Ann, take advantage of her years of wisdom, and feel free to chime in if you have something you'd like to share about how empowering it is to share stories, to share positivity, to become one with yourself, to love ourselves so that we can love others. I mean, all these beautiful things you brought to the table, Ann. It's just fantastic to know that you're in my life and an inspiration. And like Deborah said earlier, you're her mentor. And I mean, you are just an exceptional example of what it means to age and not to get old, right? So I just want to make sure you know that from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure everybody who's on this call and listening to the replay has gained such a great inspiration from you. And I am
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so grateful for all the people that have been in my life and that have helped me and supported me as I grow. And we're still becoming, and any of the listeners, I'd like to say to you that if you do want to get in touch, if you do want to talk something through, I'm giving a free 45-minute session for anyone that wants to talk through some of the things and get in touch. You might just have to email me. I think Donna will give the email rather than go to my calendar because you're in different time zones. But we can make a time, and I'd love to be able to support you if you'd like that to happen in any way.
Oh, that is so beautiful and generous. And if you can find Dr. Ann's email and pop it in the chat, that would be really great. And you guys can always copy the chat too. And then Tell's going to put in a few other links for you too. There's a really inspirational film coming up. And if anybody is not already on our email list, please do so you can keep getting all these updates. And there's Ann, there's your email in the chat. So I just want to thank you again. And Ann, if you could just close us out with one of your ritual things that you do when you're doing your meditation, or just something that you can give us if we don't make the 45-minute conversation call with you. Just give us one golden nugget to leave us with today in regards to aging and opening the door and walking out and finding yourself.
I think that there's many beautiful things, but one of them is that wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. That's a really important one. And remember that you are in the universe. The universe is in you, and you and the universe are one. And you might want to put that, I am in God, God is in me, God and I are one. Or put it into that you're an energy being, and all our energy is connected, and we're all connected to each other. And so the love that you have, the love that I have, the love that Donna has, we're sharing it with each other all the time. And just remember that you are a beautiful being, and maybe ask yourself, what will I do with this one precious, beautiful life that I have? What will I do with this one beautiful, precious life that is yours? And you do have beautiful, precious lives, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ann. I'm really, really, really gonna think on that one. And I'd like everybody to give yourself a great big hug right now.
Yes, big hug.
Big hug. Hug yourself. I want to see you all hugging yourselves. Can I see you? Everybody can come off your screen.
Big hug.
Give yourself a big hug. Yay!
Even the men, don't be afraid to give yourself a hug.
Give yourself a hug and know that you are loved. And we're going to say goodbye to Dr. Ann right now and thanking her, and anybody who wants to, hi Melissa, anybody who wants to take a little garden tour with me and get an extra dose of green and positivity. And I also want to remind you all that my blogs are on Medium now. If you haven't heard of Medium, and it's a place where people write really interesting posts. And I would just love to, if you're not already getting my emails, and to keep reading. Sometimes I find writing is where I get solace. It's I've been doing a lot of like even dictating into my phone, like poetry and writing, and expressing myself. And I think that's something, the chat's over. So, the recording is going to end. So you guys can ask any questions or whatever. I'm just going to walk around. If I freeze, tell me, or somebody tell me I'm freezing. Listen, look at you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Oh,
Bye.
bye, honey. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. You're awesome.
Thank
Where are you,
Donna.
Melissa?
See you soon.
Ann's asking you where you are.
I'm in Kona at the pier. I just finished swimming a mile.
Oh, that's He's amazing. And she just had 2 hip replacements just 3 months ago, and she's already swimming a mile. I mean,
Wonderful.
and this is one of the most high-spirited energy bunnies I've ever met in my life. And Melissa, what are you? You're 68 and ageless, right?
Yep, that's it.
68 and ageless. We love it. Anybody else want to come off and say hi and show us where you are?
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Ann. I'm
Thank
going
you,
to
Melissa.
say bye now.
Bye-bye.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for all of
Thank
those
you.
insightful, beautiful ideas that you have
Thank you.
and have shared.
You can all celebrate with me on the 2nd of March when I'll be 80.
Unbelievable. Look at you. You look amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right?
Aloha.
Aloha, love. I just love you all so much, and I'm so grateful for you all bringing your dose of positivity my way and brightening my day.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Look forward to
Aloha.
hearing from you.